franktalks.com.
Relationships, sex, passion with Dr. Laurie Petito. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Dating Dilemmas with Frank Kermit, who's a dating coach. He's an author, an educator. He's the relationship columnist for the Montreal Times newspaper. He can be reached at franktalks.com, and he joins us once a month to deal with issues related to dating and all issues related to dating. If you have questions for Frank, you can give us a call, 514-790-0991. You can also text us at 514-800. One of the issues that I wanted to talk with Frank, and sorry, Frank, welcome to the program, of course, back. Wanted to talk about one's attitude. Positive people versus negative people. We've all encountered this, I'm sure. People who seem to be very positive and light, and there's something very attractive about being surrounded by somebody who is a positive thinker versus someone who might be just give off a negative, I don't know if it's a negative vibe, negative attitude, but there's something unattractive about someone who's negative. And we need to talk about this. We need to talk about are you a negative person, a positive person? Have you ever been turned off from someone because he or she just appeared to be negative? However you want to define negative, I think we might agree on some terms of what negative is. But what I have noticed, Frank, and maybe we could talk about this, is that people in the dating world, many people in the dating scene, are very negative, not people, negative about dating.
That's right. There's a number of people that hate the whole dating scene. They hate the whole concept of dating. Yeah. They hate having to get to know somebody, having to risk rejection, not knowing what to say, when to say, and how soon should I call, and should I call the person after
all the
person?
rules. It's like not knowing all the rules about dating. So those are some of the issues we will touch on tonight, and we'd love to get some of your feedback here on Dating Dilemmas here on Passion on CJAD 800.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Petito on CJAD 800.
Dating Dilemmas tonight on the program. You can stop dancing now, Frank. Frank Kermit joins us as he does every month here. If you have questions for Frank, I'd love to hear your questions, even your comments. Have you ever been dumped because you're too negative? You know, we always focus on an issue that has to do with dating. And tonight we thought a couple of things. We're going to talk about the masks that we wear on the first date, so maybe pretension, if you will, but also talking about whether you're a negative or a positive person. I don't know too many people who call themselves negative. If you call them on it, they say, no, I'm not negative. I'm a realist. So what's the difference between a realist and a negative person? And maybe, Frank, you can give us some examples of how a certain negative attitude would be a turnoff, because, we are attracted to people who are more positive. There's no question about it. So when you're dating, I would imagine at least someone who is complaining a lot it would be looked at as someone who's negative. Anything else that comes to mind that you have seen? Somebody
who talks bad about past relationships, who goes on and on and on about how the last person they dated screwed them over and was really horrible and so on and so forth. Somebody who talks about how difficult it is to meet someone. I mean, let's look at, first of all, the difference between a realist and a negative person. A realist knows that there are challenges with dating.
Right.
But the realist also realizes that as much as there's challenges, there's also a lot of benefits when it works out and you're aiming for something that works out. So you're going to take some risks. Sometimes it's not going to work out, but you always know when you can cut it off. And that's the power of a realist. A negative person thinks that by sharing all of the negative stuff, what they're actually doing is trying to protect themselves. I'm going to tell you about every bad thing that's ever happened to me, so make sure that you understand you better not do that.
Or I'm going to lay it all out so that you accept me even with all my negative stuff. No, not really. That's not what they're trying to do.
Because they're trying to have a conversation about relationships. Here's why a positive person is more attractive.
Okay.
Human beings are influenceable creatures. When you see somebody doing something good, you will more likely be influenced to do something good. When you see somebody doing something bad, you also get more influence to do something bad.
Human nature.
Okay? When you're around a positive person, you are influenced to feel positive. This is where attraction happens. The emotion that you experience in a person's presence is the emotion you associate with that person. Okay?
Which makes them attractive.
Which makes them attractive. If you're around someone who's giving off nothing but negativity, not only are you going to be influenced to feel negativity, but any emotion that you have in the presence of another person gets linked to that other person.
So what if you've got a negative with a negative? You're not going to get a positive, but what
But
what
you'll
do
get
you get?
rapport. You'll have somebody who says, now you may get one of two things here. Either each person's negativity is going to be like, well, that person's negative, I'm the realist. Or you'll get two people who say, wow, I feel like I've known you all my life.
Because we both have had sucky things happen to us.
Exactly. They'll have such a rapport. They will connect on their negative energy. Unfortunately, negative energy tends to fester. It leads to self-sabotaging. It leads to people doing things to repeat the behavior pattern that they're already accustomed to.
Doesn't it also lead people to one-up each other in a sense? Well, if, you'll hear things like, I'm so tired. Well, if you think you're tired, you have to hear the day I had,
I don't think that's akin to just someone that is generally negative. I think that that's something else where somebody feels that they have to be just a little bit better, a little bit more, a little bit, that's not someone being negative. A person who's negative isn't necessarily trying to be the most negative person. A person who's negative, look, there's tons of reason that people are going to be negative on dates. And the biggest reason is they want to protect themselves. They've been hurt.
Protect themselves from?
Being hurt again. So all they know how to do is, well, I'm going to go on a date and I got to be myself. Well, their self is someone that was probably really hurt. What they don't realize, though, is that just talking that way, the only person that they're going to attract is more of the same kind of person who hurt them.
Okay.
Because the type of person who wouldn't hurt you is going to get turned off by the fact that you're just so down about everything.
Right.
So how many times do people walk into the office and say, every time I go out with somebody, they hate my gender? How many women say I go out with these guys?
They make me pay for.
They make me pay for their exes. The guys, the guys say
I've heard that.
I go out and these girls all hate men, and then the women say all these men hate women, and nobody wants to be around someone who's full of hate and anger and so on, especially if they're a good person. You want to be able to attract a good person? Act like a good person. Communicate like a good person. That'll help you attract a good person, because when someone feels something in your presence, they link that emotion to you.
And there's the attraction. So we're going to have to talk about how to present yourself in a more positive life, or when to recognize that you are being negative. Again, people don't assume they're negative. It's like an alcoholic. People don't really say, oh yeah, I'm an alcoholic. No, they often don't admit to it. So, a negative person doesn't necessarily see themselves as negative.
Not at all. In fact, when people come into the office and they talk and say, well, things aren't just working out for me, I'm not able to attract somebody, I like going through a mock date with them. Okay, with my background in drama therapy. Let's pretend we're on a date. We're going to have a conversation, and I'll lead by asking a few questions. And when I turn around and say, what you just said just emotionally rejected me. What you just said was a real turnoff, and here's why. They're shocked.
Really?
They're shocked. They say, but why would you feel that way? So when I ask a question, what do you do for a living, and do you like what you do? Simply saying, yeah, I like what I do. And then the silence comes in. That, well, on an emotional level, is saying, I'm not into you. I don't want to have that conversation with you.
I don't want to share that much information with you.
Exactly. So the person says, well, if you're not really interested in sharing or even getting to know me here, then I'm not gonna feel like building something with you. I may aim for sex, but that's pretty much it. So when people realize that they themselves are turning off potential partners in dating, that's the realization. That's the aha moment.
Right. And they need to see that. I hear that from a lot of people that say, I don't understand. I have good first dates. I think they went well. And then
it's like, well, why am I alone?
They never call back, or they never want to go out with them again or whatever. And they don't understand what they did wrong.
Yeah. And usually the person will say, look, I just didn't feel it. I just didn't feel the chemistry. Here's what they mean. You did not make me feel something that I would attach something positive with you.
Right. Yeah,
and make me
that
want
makes
to see
a
you again.
lot of sense, Frank. Frank Kermit is my co-host tonight for Dating Dilemmas. So if you have something you want to add to this this conversation, of course you can at 514-790-0991. I'm Dr. Laurie Bettito, and you're listening to Passion on CJAD 800.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Bettito on CJAD 800.
Tonight on the program, we have Frank Kermit, who's a dating coach, Montreal's #1 dating coach, and also the relationship columnist for the Montreal Times newspaper. And he joins me once a month here on the program. Tonight, we're talking about negativity. Basically, well, let's talk positively for a minute. More about how a positive attitude towards life, towards dating, is a sexy attitude. It makes you sexy. It makes you attractive.
As long as it is not, I'm positive about everything all the time and I never have a bad moment.
Right.
Because that's just as creepy as somebody who's overly negative about everything. Look, I don't teach people that you got to be happy all the time. There's a difference between being happy all the time and trying to keep a positive attitude.
Right.
It's impossible to be happy all the time.
Right.
There's going to be things that are going to
Stress us out.
We're not going to be happy. We're not going to be happy with things going on in our life. The key that I have found and what works best in coaching is to teach people to be grateful. Look at the things that you can be grateful for while you work on the things in your life you don't like. That's the key. That's your secret. If you wanted a secret to being positive and using that for attraction, the key is to be grateful.
I like that. I like that a lot. Hi, Mary. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hi.
I'd like to speak to Frank.
Yeah, he's here.
Yes, Mary?
Maybe it's not on the topic of today, but excuse me, I'd like to ask your opinion on it. These only boys or only men seem to, if they're the only one in the family, seem to be different from other men. And an example of this is somebody I knew who was an only son, an only child, and any time he took the girl home or introduced her to his mother, his mother would object to the girl.
I've heard this.
Yeah, I think we're going to we'll address that on the other side of the news. That's a very good point. Maybe we can touch on the mama's boys things
100%.
and
I've got the answer. I've got the answer for you, and we'll look
okay,
at that
so
after.
we'll talk about that coming up. Mary, thanks so much for your call. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Bye-bye. We're going to go to the news and come back with more dating dilemmas here on Passion on CJAD 800.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Bettito on CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas tonight on the program, and when we do this program, we focus on dating issues and answer your questions, and we pick our own topics too. Tonight we're talking about positive thinking, positive attitudes in dating versus negative attitudes in dating, and which one is more attractive. But Mary had a very interesting question, and she was talking about families where they have an only son, and where no woman is good enough for mama. What do we do in a situation like that?
Here's what you've got. You have a mother with a strict fear of abandonment. So she has set up the parameters that no other woman could ever become number one in her son's life. So it doesn't matter who he brings home, no matter how beautiful, how successful, how rich, how smart, how cultured, how much she's like his mother. Okay. It doesn't matter. She sees the new potential girlfriend, potential wife, as a threat to her position as the number one woman in his life. And
how the hell do you get over that?
It's up to the man in question to say, look, I can't wait for my mom's approval. I have to go out and build my own life. And usually that doesn't happen until he loses girl after girl after girl. When it dawns on him that he says, wait a minute, the problem isn't any of these other girls. The problem is I don't trust my own decision enough. I keep having to look for mommy's approval. It's only in that moment that he can say, I'm going to break this behavior pattern. I'm going to go out and date who I want and make my own mistakes in the process.
At this point, you may need some therapy.
That too.
When you figure that out, that, hey, something's wrong here. Text message, being cheap on a first date in order to test the woman's expectations. For instance, bringing the lady to McDonald's. Oh, somebody's calling you on something. Isn't that attitude kind of negative in the sense that it shows insecurity and distrust from the start?
My guess is that she doesn't get taken out very much.
No, really. Tell me about that. How do you respond to that?
I think that if you go out and you want to go to a date in a fast food place in a first date, if that's something that you enjoy doing, then the person that you're going out with needs to know that that's your lifestyle. And if you're only going to go out to some fancy schmancy place and you're only doing it to try and impress the other person, I think that's putting on a really false mask.
Oh, there you
and
go.
I think
There's
that's
our
unethical.
mask issue.
I think it's completely unethical.
So you're saying if you don't generally go to fancy schmancy restaurants and it's not your thing, and your thing really is to be low key, hey, fast food, and this is what I like to do, then you're better off from the start to let her know this is what I like to do?
Exactly. When people try to impress the other person, well, it's our first date. I'm going to go and do something really special. I'm going to spend $300 on this first date. That creates an expectation. Oh, this is what it's going to be like all the time. That's unethical. Now, if you do that regularly in your life with or without a date, that's something else. That's
Right.
when you try and say, well, this is how I live. I want to see if you can match up to that.
So if you're a fast fooder and that's how you live,
Look, if you're the type of person that would rather just order in food and watch a DVD, then that's the perfect first date. Find out if the two of you are compatible, because that's what you're going to end up doing later. There's nothing worse than meeting somebody initially, thinking you have all this chemistry, thinking you're so compatible, and 3 months later you realize, oh, that was part of a facade because the person was being polite and the person was just trying to impress me.
I've heard often this situation happen where a partner will say, well, I thought, at the beginning of our relationship, she was, we'd go and do hikes and we'd do all kinds of things. Like it was, let's say, his interest. It could be him or her. It doesn't matter.
That's right.
But we went bike ride. We were very active. And then a few months in and, they're a couch potato now.
Because they were never into it. They just did it for the sake of trying to impress someone on a first date. That, as far as I'm concerned, is unethical. All you're doing is setting up a relationship that is doomed to fail because it's not based on compatible values. However, if you simply approach it and say, how we have our first date is how we're going to have our 7-month anniversary date. And are you okay with this? Then at least then you're able to build something.
We still want a little special. We still want somebody to put a little effort into it,
You
Frank.
want to meet somebody who is you want to present your best self. Okay? And sure, if you want to present your best self, I think that you should communicate exactly what it is your hopes are, what it is your dreams are. But if you're trying to impress someone with money, the only type of person you're going to attract is someone that wants money. Mm-hmm. Wasn't there an old adage that said, girls, don't order the lobster unless you're planning to put out? Because if he's spending so much money on you, he's expecting something. And weren't women taught that as young girls that, listen, if you go out to
one time, I'm not sure that still goes,
but it's the mentality. The mentality is if you're going to go out on a date and somebody's dishing out the cash to try and impress you and you take the bait, you're going to have to put out.
Well, you don't have to do anything, but the expectation might be that, hey, I spent all this money on you. What do you mean? I'm only getting a kiss or something.
Listen,
I think that's horrible. Frankly,
is.
I would hope that we have evolved since then, to tell you the truth.
Right.
I don't know if that attitude still holds.
Look, on a first date, everybody should pay for themselves. And since you don't know where this is going to go, and you might be dating more than one person at any given time.
I mean, but if you're asking someone else out, I don't see anything wrong with paying. Even if it's the girl asking the guy out and he says yes, I would think she would have to pay. And if he asks her out, she pays.
You see, I agree with that. I agree that when I asked out somebody, I would always be mindful about paying. However, I have dealt with people where the person said, let's say it's the woman who asks him out, but she still expects him to pay. Mm-hmm. All right, and that creates such a resentment. It's such a turnoff. Because these guys figure, wait a minute, you're asking me out, but you're still expecting me to dish out the cash? And there's a resentment there. How is he supposed to regard
Unless he's very
her?
traditional. But then if he was very traditional, the fact that she asked him out might not bode
turn
so
him
well.
off.
Right. Would
So
turn him off.
so if he goes out with her, he's a hypocrite.
It's so complicated. Like it's hard to keep a positive attitude in the dating when dating just seems so damn complicated.
Here's how you
Frank.
keep it positive, okay?
How?
Everybody pays for themselves. Thank you. You're all equal. You want to be treated like an equal, you want to be respected like an equal, act like an equal. Everybody pays for themselves. And if you like it, and if you want to treat somebody and say, look, you know what, I really like this, I'll pay for this time, you can cover it next time. Mm-hmm. Sure, fine, no problem. But to go in with an unreasonable expectation that someone should treat you for the privilege of being in your company, that type of self-entitlement is a red flag.
Unless you want that kind of person.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. 514-790-0991. You can also text at 514-800. We're talking about a lot of things here, but we're talking about being negative, being positive, and how that attitude is a turn on or a turn off. And being positive obviously is more of a turn on than being negative, but also the masks that we wear. And I think that's important because on first dates, people often think they have this expect, oh my God, that's the perfect person. I just met the perfect person. And then, a few dates later, it's like, oh, not the person I thought it was. So what happens? What is our natural instinct in dating?
The natural instinct is that when you're going out with somebody initially, we're looking to put those people into a category. That's how we make sense of the world. We put people in categories. Now, if I'm on a date with somebody, I'm looking for any sort of cues, whether it's something they say, something they do, a way they behave, maybe in a manner of how they present themselves. And we're looking for cues. Is this somebody that I could have something potentially long-term with? Is this someone that I could have, friends with benefits? Is this someone that I would only want for a one-night stand? Is this someone that I wouldn't even want to get sexual with and I want to keep him as a platonic friend? Mm-hmm. Is this somebody that, I could date casually, but I'm not really sure if I want to commit? Is this somebody that, no, if I date this person, I want this to be exclusive? We're looking to put that person into a category. We may even decide this is a person I just don't want to be around. Thank you very much. Please forget my name and number.
Right.
We're trying to put people into categories. The danger is that we're so excited about it and we're so enamored by the new relationship energy that comes in that we put the person in the wrong category.
So that happens, that we put them in the wrong category.
That's when people struggle to get over an ex, even though intellectually they know. Intellectually, that person was not right for me, but why do I feel such a pull? Because you put that person in the wrong category. That person should have been friends with benefits, one-night stand person, casual date person. That's the category they should have gone into, but they ended up into soulmate category. Spouse, future spouse category, person I want to have kids with category. You put the person in the wrong category, it's going to be even harder to get over that person. Because on an emotional level, you've already built up that future with that person. That person has become a symbol. And when you get to know the person for real and you find out, this person isn't living up to my expectations, it's Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're hooked on somebody that was never right for you to begin with.
That wasn't the right person.
Exactly.
So how long does it take to actually get to know them?
If you know what questions to ask, you can find out within a couple of hours exactly what parameters we're dealing with. If you don't know the types of questions to ask, you could be dating somebody for years and years and years and never really be sure, or would never know if they would be a compatible partner. Look at people who have been married look at people who have dated for 6 or 7 years and then all of a sudden get married, and within 2 or 3 years of the marriage, divorce. Something's going on there if they were together for 6 years and learned who they really were after the wedding.
Yeah, that doesn't make all that much sense, does it?
No.
And to take that long to do it. No. We're going to take a short break and come back to your calls. We'll get to you. Sarah, stay on the line, and we'll also get to your text messages. Frank Kermit is in studio. He's a dating coach, educator, relationship columnist for the Montreal Times newspaper, and he's here to talk about dating issues, as he does once a month here on Passion on CJAD 800.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Bettito on CJAD 800.
Imagine me and you, I do. I think about you day and night.
Dating dilemmas tonight on the program. Frank Kermit in studio with me as he is every month here talking about some dating issues. And we have Serge on the line. Hi, Serge.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Yes, I'm a widower.
Okay.
I lost my wife 2.5 years ago.
Sorry to hear that.
And now I've just had an interesting experience this year. Actually, 2 years after my wife died, I met someone,
Okay.
and I thought it went quite well at first. Although this woman, I'm 60, she was 58. And she was, we both have grown children, adult children. I got along well with her. We got along well, and we actually wound up being together for 4 months. So we had a 4-month relationship. But she broke it off with me.
Okay. Did she tell you anything? Why?
Well, yeah, sort of. But, it's just, I have to admit, I'm disappointed because I certainly was not, you're talking about negativity. I was not at all negative. Actually, I was quite positive and not exaggeratedly so. And I was very patient. I was a very good boyfriend, to be perfectly frank. And, I was attentive, I was considerate, I cooked nice meals for her, I always made time for her, we talked on the phone, we got together.
Can I ask you something, Serge? Did she do the same for you? Was she just as attentive with you? Did she do nice things for you? Did she earn all of this? Was it equal?
Well, yes and no. I have to say, I think she, by her own admission, I was nicer to her than she was to me.
Okay, I think Frank has something to say about this.
All right,
Yeah.
Serge. First of all, my condolence on the loss of your wife.
Thank you, Frank.
How long were the two of you together?
38 years.
Wow.
Okay, so I want you to understand something. Now that you're back into the world of dating,
Mm-hmm.
it's unlikely that the next girlfriend you have you're going to end up in a long-term relationship that matches anything that your marriage gave you.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay, and it sounds like you were a great boyfriend. I want you to hear me very carefully.
Okay.
It's not enough to be just a great boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
You have to find a great girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And if she is acknowledging that she isn't as attentive and as nice to you as you are to her, this relationship is lopsided. And she might not have been as nice to you because she was hoping you were going to break it off, for all we know. The bottom line is she recognized that she was getting more than she was giving, and that's not fair to you. And at some point, she figured that, well, one day he's going to wake up, realize that this is your first relationship since the death of your wife?
It is.
All right. Sometimes when we have a major loss, we suffer some kind of a trauma, we get back into that dating world, it's easy for us to latch on to something good and hold on to it, and we ignore the fact that it might not be as great as it could be with somebody else. So we hope, I met somebody, it's really great. Sure, I'm not getting as much as I'm putting in, but it's better than being alone.
Yeah.
And, when you go through that loss, it sometimes brings up the loss that you had from your previous trauma.
Right.
So that's something I want you to understand. A lot of the pain you might be feeling right now isn't necessarily related to this new girl. You might still be mourning your wife.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's definitely true. I can certainly see that. I've just like I'm saying, I was disappointed because I'm the kind of person, philosophically, I say you work with what you have. I thought there was a lot of things like we had in common. We got along very well. So I did get something out of it. It's not like
Sure.
she didn't give anything,
But as great as it is,
the intimacy was good, and she actually made a point of that. Even as she was angling to break up with me, she was acknowledging, that the sex was good, and things like that. She said she liked me, She said
that's
she
not
liked
enough.
the way I looked. She liked my home. Things like this. And we spoke the same language. We're both French Canadians who were more comfortable conversing in English. Just things like that. So I found it easy to get along with her. I liked being with her. And she seemed to enjoy the time we'd spent together.
Serge?
But then she didn't like my schedule. I didn't have like a 9-to-5 schedule like her. I work for myself. And I'm busy weekends in the summer when she wants to be off. That was an issue for her. So, but I don't know if it's just an excuse, or
Listen,
like it's really
there's only
built
one
on
excuse.
things like that. But also, she seemed to be indicating that she wasn't falling in love with me, and that I think she felt that there was something missing for her.
And I think that's important. So let's let Frank give a few last words. Thanks for your call, Serge. Appreciate that.
All we need to know is that she broke up with you. That says that she's not worthy of you, because she's not able to appreciate what you have to offer. Now, maybe there was an emotional need of hers that was being violated. Maybe there was something that she was neutral on that she really wanted more of. You sound like a great guy, but if you're giving more than you're getting, it's hard to respect a man who does that.
Well, there's that's the girl who says you're too nice.
That's right.
Right.
A girl cannot feel attraction if she doesn't first respect you. That's why some women date jerks. They may not like the jerk, but they respect him.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Unfortunately, but that's the way it works. We'll come back to a couple of text messages, and we'll wrap up this Dating Dilemmas here on Passion on CJAD 800.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on CJAD 800.
Dating Dilemmas tonight on the program. Frank Kermit is here. We just have a couple of minutes left. I got a couple of questions for you. I met someone for casual fun a few months back. We got along so well. I recently met his mother, and we plan on moving in together. Problem is, he thinks I'm a brunette. I dye all my hair. All my hair. He's very fond of brunettes and feels women who dye their hair are unattractive. He assumes I'm natural, and when he brought it up the first time we met, I didn't correct him because I was expecting a one-time thing. Now that we're serious, I want to be honest, but it's been 4 months. How do I tell him? I feel awful for hiding such a silly thing.
Tell him directly, politely, calmly, and in private.
Okay.
That's it. Just tell him, do this before you move in.
You have to do it. Right.
If you want to have something serious, you have to do it and say, look, there's something you have to know about me if we're going to move in. And then you tell him.
Okay. Good. Next, hello to you both. I'm going out with a man, 56 years, who is bipolar. It has been 3 months, and sexually we match 10 on 10. However, he can change moods quickly and be very blunt, hurtful. What tips does Frank have to provide? How should I behave when he becomes like that?
Well, at that point, if you're dealing with somebody who's bipolar, you're dealing with someone that has a specific condition. I think you have to educate yourself on that condition. And it may not be something that you can actually handle. So you have to really figure out if you want to continue to see him.
I would recommend Amis Quebec. They're a good group. Thanks, Frank, for being on the program. And somebody says I didn't mean to offend Frank earlier with the whole McDonald's thing. So
it's okay.
No worries about that.
5 years on radio, that's the only complaint.
That's okay, exactly. If that's the only complaint, that's okay. Thanks to Brad Smith in Master Control. And thanks to all of you for tuning in.
Listen to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD and CJAD.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com. Coaching available in person, by phone, and by Skype. For singles, couples, and alternative lifestyles, franktalks.com.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit Frank da